What's up, everyone? Welcome to FamCast. Today is our 16th episode. I was going to say 12, but it's our 16th episode. And today, in our episode, we're going to be actually talking about what makes a good life. Chris was actually able to send out a prompt on via social media, and so we actually got some full responses back about what some of you all believe what makes a good life for you. So we're going to explore that today. Vero, welcome back. Is there anything you want to say today?
Just thanks for having me again. I'm looking forward to our discussion. I know there's a lot of good stuff that people submitted, so excited to talk about it.
Wonderful. We are super excited that you're here. Chris, do you have anything you want to say? Want to share with the world?
Yeah, I just want to give thanks to everyone that participated in giving us their answers and their beliefs in what makes a good life. There's a lot of interesting answers there, and it made me start thinking what makes me think what makes a good life. So it's just, which is good, but everyone's responses and stuff were actually true and they're facts. But yeah, just like I said, thanks for supporting the FamCast platform, our podcast. We're still trying to get used to all this, getting comfortable, getting different topics in here. But yeah, like I said, thanks for everyone who's even viewing, subscribing, whatever. You guys are. I said it so many times before. You guys are our fuel. So so yeah.
Hey, keep on saying it because it's true. We really thank you all from the bottom of our hearts for engaging, for sending in questions, for liking our videos, for sharing it. It really does fuel motivation for us to actually be able to continue to do it. So thank you all. Keep on supporting us, and we'll keep on putting out as best content as we can.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, so that's going to be what we're going to do today. Today we're going to talk about what makes life good. What makes a good life. And I think personally, I believe that everyone will have their own definition from what makes their own good life. And I think that that's validation that we all live a unique experience. That being said, we are part of this human collective. So to hear what people perceive as a good life for them, I'm super excited to dive into that and have conversations surrounding that. So Chris, I don't know if you wanted to go ahead and kick us off with our first prompt, first question. Or sorry, not first question, first response to the question.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not going in order, just to let you guys know. So we'll just go straight. Whatever I printed everyone's responses out. So like I said, we're not gonna go in order. We're just gonna pull it out and we're just gonna start giving our feedback to whoever responded. You guys know who it was. Obviously, there's a lot of anonymously answers, so we don't know who it is. There's some that have answered and that actually put their name on there, so which is cool. So thank you guys for that. But yeah, so the first one I got, it's this one here. It says family, with the heart on it. So what makes a good life? Family, and I totally agree. Family makes a good life. I mean, your parents gave you a life, so it gave you a chance to live. So obviously, life's good, man. But yeah, family. I mean, they're there with you from thick to thin. Good and bad. And I totally, like I said, I totally agree with family as well. Because with my family, every time I rise every morning, that's the first thing I see is my family, and I already know life is good. So, but yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's true. I think not just family, but I'd like to extend that to a good support system. I think that all three of us, are fortunate enough to come from a really good family, like our nuclear family, and also our extended family, like primos and tias. And I think we're really lucky that we have that, because it definitely contributes to who we are and our happiness. But I don't think that you need to have a family, like a traditional family. It could be a support system, because so many people find themselves without that type of family, but they find like friends and they find a support system that feels like family.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important because if you're trying to accomplish things, or even if you're just trying to go through life without anybody there to like, just be there or to catch you if you fall, I think it makes it not as, happy. So I think family definitely, and anyone who feels like family, to have that support.
I second that 100%. Family does not have to be blood relation. And I think we get to choose who our family is. We have the autonomy over who we decide we choose that to be our family. And it's true. There's folks who do not have that support, who do not have people in their lives that value them, that see them and affirm them for who they are. And I think that does contribute to not having a well-rounded, I guess you can say, for lack of another way of saying, not having a good life. And just to validate it, I mean, we're human beings. We seek connection. When we seek connection, physical touch is that production of oxytocin. Oxytocin heals your body. Then there's more chemicals that are involved, serotonin, dopamine. So when we don't have folks that are going to support us, that are going to catch us again when we fall, it's detrimental to our health. We start feeling like maybe we're not worthy, or et cetera, et cetera. These negative thoughts will definitely fuel our existence. So family, I definitely do believe that it plays a crucial role into whether someone's going to be able to say that their life is well fulfilled, or to say, my life isn't worth living, or et cetera, because of that lack of family support. And again, family being that of not necessarily blood relation. Choosing who your family is really our autonomy.
Right on. Yeah, so we got our next one. So our next one is giving life your best effort, never settling for less or wasting your potential. Don't cheat yourself, live with no regrets, and show love to your people and this world. Nano, so what you got to say about this?
Oh, love to the people. I think with the people, it starts with you. Show love to yourself, because that extends. You radiate that energy. It's important. It's important to recognize those who and to be grateful for those who have actually been there for you, who have extended an arm in support, a hand in support. And so, yeah, most definitely, that's definitely something that, especially when we are finding ourselves struggle, like being grateful for experiences. Every day we get to wake up, it's a blessing. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So to truly be grateful about that, and I think that helps fulfill, right? I think we talked about it before, Chris, where to describe our sense of my life is going to be happy every single day, well, that's not necessarily going to be a well-fulfilled life. We actually have to overcome struggles or overcome certain types of minuscule adversities.
Yeah.
That actually makes us a lot more resilient. So to have, again, that support to keep going, to not give up, using your strengths and recognizing that vulnerability is that strength. So I think that's definitely part of having that fulfillment, right? We're going to have experiences. There's going to be little things throughout a 24-hour day period that maybe it's not going to be the best day, but to find those pockets of joy, find those affirmations of it's worth living, it's worth being grateful for, and more importantly, it's worth the love.
Right on. And Vero?
I really I like that. I like that they said, putting your effort and explore or expand your potential. And I think if you would have asked me about that specifically like 10 years ago, or maybe even less than that, I would have thought that meant, have a good career. But I really don't think that, well, for me now, I think it's not about your job or your work. It's about what goes beyond that. I mean, it's important for some people. To me, I'm learning more and more every day that my potential and putting in effort should be more for me and not my career, because I feel like sometimes your career or your job, sometimes it's not for you. You're in a place where, like me, for example, I feel like my job right now is not showing my true potential, because it's not something that I thought that I would want to do. It's still not something where I find a lot of fulfillment. So instead of being down about it, because I often am, you know, sometimes I feel sad, like, you know, especially when I see people loving their jobs. I'm like, why isn't that something that I'm experiencing? Like, I don't particularly love my job. And that used to make me really sad. But I think you have to realize, though, for me, I had to realize that, you know, in having a good life, you need to put the focus on things that make you feel happy. And I used to think that your job and happiness had to be kind of like interconnected in order to feel that fulfillment. But I think that I've just started focusing more on myself and my potential for me and life. And I don't know, I feel like it's really important to realize that life goes beyond the 9 to 5. And I know this sounds kind of dumb, because probably a lot of people are like, duh, like, of course your job is not your happiness. But I grew up where people are like, oh, you're going to do great things, and you're going to be, you know, you're so smart, you're going to do this, and you're going to do that. And I was like, oh, wow, you know. And I always thought that that meant some type of work or some type of job. Yeah. And I think I'm realizing more and more as I get older that it doesn't mean that at all. It means so much more. It means fulfillment for your life personally, or going back to the last one with family, and putting in effort into things that make you happy, things that you love. And I know that we're going to talk about kind of like our own versions of what makes life good, but to me, that's a big one. Like, putting effort into things that make you feel good, and not just your job, which that's how I grew up thinking, like, oh, you know, you're going to do this, you're going to be a teacher, and you're going to make lots of money, you're going to be happy. And you get older and you're like, wait, I feel like it doesn't go like that.
Yeah. So, like how you were saying too, well, my what I believe, I used to believe, is making sure I met everyone else's expectations rather than fulfilling what I wanted to do personally.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I didn't realize that until now. Like, even until this day, like, come on, we're doing this this podcast now, and it's like, it's something I've always wanted to do, not just for me to talk and put my opinions out there, but it was a way for me to grow. And like how they were saying, whoever responded to that, how they said giving your life your best efforts, is true. I just recently finished reading a book called The Alchemist, and in that book it talks about life is about getting knocked down 7 times but getting up 8 times in a row, and that's exactly how I see it now. And like how you're saying, when you were younger, you expected to be this teacher. As for me as well, I expected to be everybody, when I was asked in kindergarten, I might have said a policeman or an astronaut, but in reality too, it's like I gotta fulfill my life. If I was asked that now, knowing what I know now, I would have responded to the teacher like, I just want to be a kid for as long as I can be, you know, enjoy life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like, yeah, you know, give life your best efforts, and like how that book was saying, life's about getting knocked down 7 times but getting back 8 times in a row, and live life with no regrets. You know, just, you know, if you did something, you know, like, it was a stepping stone to realization. You know, mistakes happen, and I mean, mistakes are we said it before, it's wisdom. You know, it's an experience. But yeah, so I really like that one. Whoever said that, I mean, you know who you are, so kudos to you. But yeah, I got another one. This is from our cousin Tweety. So this one, I didn't post it.
Hello, Tweety.
Yeah, Tweety. I didn't post it because I don't know if he wanted me to post his Snapchat or anything up there. So, but yeah, he responded as well, and he's actually very, very interested in seeing this episode. So his response and his belief was not worrying about other people's BS Just work and save up. You gotta think ahead of the game and stay positive. No matter what life throws at you, sometimes you gotta face hard things to make you a stronger person. The meaning to this is just be humble and grateful for what you have. So, pretty.
Wise words from a primo.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that.
Heck yeah. So,
I, I really, the part of not focusing on other people's BS. I think, I mean, what I want to say is that if we allow folks to dictate the rules that we're going to live by, or if we indulge in people's lives that really has not a whole lot of an effect on us, we have the ability, the autonomy to say, nah, it ain't my business, and I'm gonna keep doing me. Looking at the positive side of things, I think especially when we look at the positive side of things, you don't ever see someone's BS. You see a human. You see a human for who they are and living life, human experience, just like every single one of us. And I think with that, again, we are prisoners to the rules that we put ourselves on. And a lot of these rules aren't necessarily rules that we necessarily agreed on. So I think for more than anything, to recognize that do you, live you, do the best you, be the best version of yourself. And even if that best version doesn't want to shower today, don't shower, don't do the things that you feel are going to be detrimental to you, don't like to do. Because that's not hitting that dopamine and serotonin response. And those are the things we kind of want to be hidden when it comes to recognizing happiness or joy, or to really consider our lives being fulfilled and lived. Because those are the things that are actually going to help us live longer. And to say that is someone else's rules to live by, that it's not going to be met within our body. So all we can do is focus on us, do the best, be the best version of ourselves, and look at the positive.
Heck yeah. How about you, Vero? What's your response?
I think my favorite, I love what he said. I think 3D is super wise, and I know that, collectively as a family, we've gone through a lot. I know 3D has gone a lot, so I really appreciate his perspective, because I feel like, he's walked a lot of miles in his own shoes. He's experienced life, and I think we have a lot to learn from him. My favorite part was gratitude. Be humble, be grateful, and I think that's something that I've always said that, or I've always thought that I believe that, but just lately, just reminding myself to be grateful for what I have. One of my favorite quotes is, comparison is the thief of joy. And I am definitely somebody who did that growing up, and just in my 20s, and I'm not saying I still don't do it, because it's hard not to, but when you compare your life to someone else's, sometimes it takes away from what you do have, and I love that. I think being grateful is one of the key ingredients to a good life. To sit back and recognize what you do have and what you worked for, whether it be a job or, your own personal achievements, your own personal development and growth. I think that's super important, to just kind of take a step back. I try to do it more often, daily, give myself affirmations, give myself things to, remind myself to be grateful. Because I know you guys know not everyone has the same life, obviously. Like, we have, everybody goes through different things. Everybody has their own struggles. And I think for me, when I'm in a rut, like I'm stuck in a rut, it's really hard for me to be naturally grateful. Like, I have to force myself to look back and be like, wait, just because X, Y, and Z aren't a certain way doesn't mean that I don't have a good life. It doesn't mean that I don't have the ingredients to make something good for myself. And I always think back to Nano. Do you remember it was a Disneyland trip. A lot of the primos went, and we were having lunch. We were eating at that Mexican place, and it was me and Ralphie and Sochi, and we were eating guacamole, and you guys were eating guacamole. I don't know if you remember, but
Remember the guacamole for sure.
Yeah, a lot of us, not me, but I think a lot of a few of us were like, oh, my job's great, and I like my job, and oh yeah, you know, like I don't know why, just talking about work and our jobs made me feel really sad, and it made me feel kind of like, I don't know, it made me doubt myself and question myself. Like, what am I doing? Like, am I doing something wrong that I'm not enjoying my work the way that like other people do? And I just felt really down. And I had to get away from, I don't know if you remember Nano, but I had to kind of down for a little bit because I had to kind of self-reflect. And I felt dumb because I was like, this is Disneyland, I'm supposed to be having fun. But I was like, no, like, take this moment for yourself and just kind of reflect. And I just remember Sochi being like, you know, our cousin Sochi, Chris's sister. I mean, I know you guys know that, but just for the viewers, she kind of came.
Oh.
What you do have though, and she was like, yeah, those people, like, those people. You guys, like, some of the people at the table were sharing about how much joy they found in their work. And she was like, and that's awesome. And she was just like, but for you, maybe you don't like your job. She was like, you have Juan, and Juan is my partner, my boyfriend. She was like, did you ever think that you would have a love like that? And I was like, no, I never thought that. I never thought that we would be in such a great relationship. And it just made me kind of step back and be like, I can't believe I was sad about not having, like, you know, the perfect job, you know? When really I just needed to take a step back, and thanks to Sochi for helping me that day, made me realize, like, just because one thing isn't going your way or the way that you always envisioned for yourself doesn't mean that you don't have something good, that you don't have a good life. So I'm super grateful to Sochi and for that trip, because anytime I feel down about work, anytime I feel stressed, I just have to take a step back and be like, you know what, I have a lot that I never thought that I would have for myself, and I'm super grateful. And that's how I end most of my days. I say thank you to the universe, to God, for you know, having me in their favor, and just being grateful. And that in the past couple of years has really made my life, like, it has made such a difference in my life. So I appreciate Three saying grateful and humble, because I think that's something people forget. You know, like, we need to be grateful for what we do have, and not focus on the negative or how things aren't going the way that we want them to.
Yeah. See, so when he says, be grateful for what you have, I mean, I remember growing up, I always wanted to be rich, you know, and always wanted to have everything I can possibly have, all the cool cars, biggest house, mansion, whatever, all the money I can possibly have. But now that I'm older, I realize that everything, I think I'm way more happier than I would be if I did have all that. I mean, I wouldn't know because I don't have all that, but I'm still a very, very, very happy person with what I got. And like I tweeted with him saying that, it really opened my mind too. Like, damn, like it is, like, I am happy, you know, like other people, other things make people happy, you know, so other things make people have a good life, you know. Some people stay towards the money, some people stay towards cars or family, friends, you know, love. And I mean, like how we said before we started this podcast, you know, everyone has their own belief in what makes their life good, and we can obviously see that in these responses. So yeah, being grateful. What else did you say? Not worrying about other people's BS. You know, worry about yourself. You know, do what you have to do to make your life good, and rather than worrying about all the negativity that surrounds you, you know, just try to make everything positive. You know, I know at times it's hard to find positivity in negative situations, but there's possibility in it. So I mean, sometimes we gotta search deep inside within ourselves to find it, but it's there. So So yeah, heck yeah, Tweety, shout out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me see.
Love you, Tweety.
So here's another one. So it's peace of mind. This one, peace of mind. Example: knowing I work and feed my family in a good, honest living. Being able to go out knowing I don't owe anyone anything. Going to sleep at night knowing I did all I can to make my loved ones happy. So peace of mind. I like this because I go to work, make an honest living, feed my family, you know, give them what I possibly can, you know, try to keep them happy as much as I possibly can. And like I said earlier, every day I wake up, I see them there. It makes me happy, keeps me at peace at mind. You know, if I'm at peace at mind, that means I'm comfortable. You know, and not only do I see happiness in them, but I'm loving myself because for what I'm doing. So Nano said earlier, it starts by loving yourself. If you don't love yourself, how are you gonna love someone else? You know, so yeah, like having that peace of mind will show you that. But
I value peace of mind so much more now as an adult because I didn't have it growing up, and it does for lack of another way of saying it, fucks with you, and when you don't have peace, you don't have calmness, you can't see clarity. I know for me, I struggled in school. I was not a straight A student or anything like that, but it's because I didn't have that peace. There was a lot of internalized hate that I was taught. Not only taught, but also just I absorbed it. You internalize these emotions that are projected onto you, and so peace now to me is loving yourself, standing in your authentic truth. And I have to give kudos to one of the individuals that really helped me see that I didn't have to live a heteronormative social construct that doesn't apply to me, doesn't fit with me, and I don't need to fit into a category or a label. And I think once I started evaluating that, seeing the love that I wasn't giving myself and restoring it, because I was giving it on all these different avenues, it really does start with you. You can love folks who you feel like you're playing that facade, and I genuinely believe a lot of men walk around with this mask that they hide their emotion behind. And so it's a defense mechanism to really try to protect ourselves, which is actually very self-sabotaging. And so not having peace of mind growing up, I value it. I value it today. I am so grateful for the family that I have. I'm so fortunate, privileged to be able to be affirmed in my existence and not have to think twice about, well, are they just doing that? I can shut my imposter syndrome out. I can tell my imposter syndrome to say, you know what, silence. We are not the one talking right now. Those are the voices that my family, the people that love me, the people that care about me. And it restored a peace that I didn't have. I did not have that peace growing up, and now it's what I'm grateful for. It's what I know my heart beats. I know my lungs exacerbate, and when I breathe out air, it's the love that my family has given me, and it truly is life-saving, because when we do not have peace, I know it's destructive. It's very destructive.
Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate too that peace of mind is something different for all of us. You know, for the person who submitted that, their peace of mind is knowing that they are providing for their family. And I think that's so beautiful. And I know your peace of mind is completely different. For me, peace of mind is something that I struggle with, to be honest. Just because I'm a very anxious person. I have a lot of anxious thoughts, and it's hard for me to completely feel at peace. Like, there's always something in the back of my mind. And I don't know if that's because I'm older or because, I have a lot on my plate some days. But that's something that I pray for and strive for, to have peace of mind. Because like gratitude and I think that's one of the key ingredients of having a good life is being able to go to bed at night and just feel. I mean, obviously, we'll have our days where there's things going on, but that is something that I strive for, to go to bed at night, close my eyes, and feel peace. Because that doesn't happen too often for me. And I think that's something that I'm working on personally. Because it's hard. It's hard to feel like, oh, everything's great, or everything's good, or I have nothing to worry about right now. Because it's always something, especially, I mean, I don't even have a family. I don't have kids, or I'm imagining it gets harder. So, but that's something that I want to really achieve for myself, that I'll feel that peace.
Because it just to echo what you said, it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And to validate that there are lived experiences that it's not that they inhibit us, but literally our anxious is awoken. It hijacks our body to such an extent that it's asking questions. And when we ask questions, excuse me, when we ask those types of questions, it can bring really, really impactful thoughts of deep insight, really trying to understand what's going on, and it's definitely very difficult to sleep. Very, very difficult to sleep in those moments, because it's doing the thing that anxious does. It's preparing us for a future 911 call, and we have to be able to understand and validate that, and it's something that takes practice.
What's cool about peace of mind, like how you guys are saying, it's different for everyone. Another thing too, like I believe in peace of mind, and when I'm at peace of mind, I believe that I'm enjoying the present day more. I'm not worried about the future. I'm not worried about the past. And me being at peace, like I said earlier, is me being comfortable. I'm in my comfort zone. So it's crazy how it's different for everybody. So
yeah. I know, and I just want to say too that I feel like even though I feel anxious, and striving for that peace of mind, I also feel privileged in the sense that my thoughts at night are, how can I move on and do something better for myself? How can I start my own business? How can I do things to improve me as a person or in my relationships? And I think, of course, those are struggles that we all have and thoughts that we all have, but I can't help but think back to growing up and thinking about my mom, and I don't want to get emotional, but just recognizing that her peace of mind was completely different, and her peace of mind was about survival, because we went through some hard stuff growing up and a lot of financial difficulties. So for my mom, just thinking of that off the top of my head, peace of mind for her meant something so different. It meant being able to like the original poster, feed her family or pay some bills. And I just feel incredibly grateful and privileged to be able to sit here and be like, oh, I just got to sleep, and I'm worried about work, or it just feels, I'm not trying to minimize my own thoughts or struggles, but I just want to really give space to I think all of our moms were really their peace of mind really allowed for us, their struggles paved the way for us to have the life that we have now, because they really, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm wording it right, but their peace of mind and their thoughts racing at night really allowed for us to feel peace and comfort, because when I was a kid, I didn't really know necessarily that we were poor, or that my mom, our lights were going to go out, or if they did, my mom would always be like, oh, it's okay, we'll pay tomorrow. And so I feel really privileged and lucky to be able to say that, my peace of mind is so different from my mom's, because she struggled so that I wouldn't have to necessarily,
Yeah, okay, that's very, very true. And in the podcast before this one, I was talking about the journal that I'm writing in, and there's a part in there where I talk about something similar that you said, and about our the struggles that our parents and our ancestors went through before we were even born, was to make our futures better. We're gonna struggle the same way, not the same similar as them, but we're gonna have our own sets of struggles, but we're gonna pave a brighter future for the next generation after us as well. So I feel like it's just a paved trail for the generations before us. You know, if you think about ancient times, they didn't have no lights or anything, so they didn't have to struggle about money, but they had survival, trying to like trying to take over lives and stuff. You know, so they had that survival instinct and stuff like that. Same thing with our parents; they had the survival instinct too. They thought about survival the next day, rising up, working in the fields, paying the bills, you know, making sure having food on the food on the table. And they, like I said, they were at peace of mind when they seen us happy and not seeing their struggle. And that's the same way I feel like everyone's paving a way similarly as to our ancestors, or even to the generations before us. But yeah. So, but yeah, it's I like that one piece of mine. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I like.
So I got another one here. Says, don't stress on the things you have. Oh, sorry. Don't stress on the things you have no control over. You'll drive yourself crazy stressing over things you can't change. That's good.
Well, my shout out, Claudia. I miss you. Focus on what you can control, not on what you cannot. Our emotions, we cannot control our emotions. Just like we cannot control the weather, but we've learned how to adapt to the weather. We learned to wear jackets. We learned to wear tank tops when it's hot. So these adaptive skills are that of survival traits. These are survival traits. So to truly focus on the things that you can control, our perspective, we can always shift our perspective. We can always take deep breaths, especially when things are super overwhelming or complex. It's important. It's critical. It's called self-care, to be able to take a step back, and to understand that when cortisol is rushing through your body and there's not a physical threat, even if it's perceived, validate the perceived threat. Validate that I'm scared that there's a bear in my room, but there's not a bear in my room. You validate that. There's a whole level of understanding. You're welcoming a piece of yourself that is you. It's not the part that defines who you are, but it is a part of you, and all it's seeking is safety. Your fear is seeking safety. So when we have those rush of stress responses, check in. Check in with yourself. I have a very, very fortunate privilege to have taken a course called Sociology of Stress. The Sociology of Stress. And it was such an insightful course that I learned that stress is actually, and in many, many situations, a very good thing if we choose to look at it from that perspective. It's a professor shared a very, very intimate experience with the class about how they got a diagnosis and they were able to spend time, because of their diagnosis, they were able to spend time with an individual that was quarantined. This was years prior to our COVID season. So that story touched me in such a profound way, because even in the most ugliest of times, that we think is the most ugliest of times, there is beauty. There's a silver lining in things. Oh, yeah. The universe has such an interesting way of balancing things out that to choose to be grateful about it only will bring us more affirmation of life is good, as difficult as it may be. The flower that blooms in adversity is the most rarest and beautiful of them all. And so when we can overcome things and we can recognize that we did that, it's life-saving, because now we're actually validating the lived experiences of those that come before us, our parents who struggled as well. We all are still human beings who have STEM brains, that part of our STEM brain has limited skills, and that of fight and flight or freeze. And when we can elevate that into not only cognitive reference to say, my mom went through this, I can get through this somehow, or to recognize, the things that I went through, right? Vero, I love that you said it's not about minimizing our experiences. It's about validating those others' experiences that truly, when we witness it, we see that there's strength, that we can embody that kind of strength. And I know for me, having seen my mom go through resilient experiences and adverse experiences, I was actually able to see myself as a much more stronger individual. I was able to, I embody my mom. I'm her product. And so it's a privilege to be a part of that product, but to also recognize that there's struggle with it, right? There was a peace of mind that as long as I know I'm happy and I choose my happy for myself, my mom's fulfilled. And I definitely want to embody that more.
Yeah. I think that's also something that I struggle with. I think part of anxiety in general, that's what it is that you're worrying about things you can't control. That you're worrying about things that really, whatever you do doesn't really make a difference necessarily. It's all of these external things, all of these, with work and life, and you can't always change it, and that's what I struggle with, back to the peace of mind, closing my eyes at night and just thinking about things, replaying things in my head, and I'm like, why are you doing that to yourself? You can't change it. It already happened, or it's going to happen that way regardless of what you do. So I think that it is to be able to recognize that definitely contributes to a good life, to be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to worry about that, because no matter how much I worry, nothing's going to change. So all you can do is just focus on yourself and be like, what can I change? You can change your mindset. You can change the way that you choose to perceive certain things. You can flip it around and make a negative into a positive. And I mean, I mentioned a bunch in this, just, in this time that we've been talking, that I'm not so happy. I know this is like going out into the internet, and I'm all telling you how I don't like my job. But I mean, not that I don't like my job, I'm grateful for my job, but I just feel like personally it's not somewhere where I find a lot of fulfillment and joy, and that to me is something that I really strive for, to have a career or a job where I step in through the doors, and yeah, there's going to be stress and struggle, but at the end of the day, I want to feel like, wow, that was worth it. And unfortunately, I don't really feel like that right now. I mean, and I know that it's something that I can change and I do have control of, but sometimes you're in situations where the timing isn't right. So I feel like I have no control at the moment on certain things of my work. But I can choose to go into the office and see the good. I can choose to see, instead of like going in like angry or upset, I can choose to change my attitude towards it. And that's something that I really try to do, because you're not always dealt the cards that you want in life. Obviously we know that, but you can choose what you do with that hand. You can either, get sad about it, or you can really face your fears, face your struggles, and that's what you do have control over. And I think someone who is more anxious, that's something that I need to remind myself, because I'm not one of those naturally calm people. Like my partner Juan, he is. Sometimes I feel envious. Like, how are you so calm and collected, and nothing phases him sometimes. But I can't control over, what I bring home from work, for example. I can choose to walk through my door 5 o'clock back to my apartment, and I can choose to be like, you know what, whatever happened at work today, I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to choose to make the rest of the day, for me, choose to make it good, because that's what I do have control over. I have control over, how my life goes after work. It doesn't have to affect me personally the way that I thought that it had to. I know.
So when I read this, oh sorry, oh dang. And so when I read that, don't stress over the things you have no control over. Takes me back to realizing to enjoy the present. You know, enjoy the present times, enjoy now, rather than thinking of what happened in the past. Because if you live in the past, majority of the time it's something sad, or you know, something that you're trying to you're reminiscing about, that's something that's not positive. So same thing with thinking about the future, you know, like for example, I catch myself at sometimes where I'm like, man, like how you said, I'm not enjoying my job right now. You know, I don't enjoy my job. And there's times where I think like that, very similar to that, and I start to realize like, oh, I want to go back to school. I need to go back to school. Rather than wanting to, I tell myself I need to, and it's like, no, I need to want it. I need to want that. So, so yeah, don't stress over the things you can't control. I mean, you can't control the future. I mean, don't the only you can. I believe there's ways to alter it. Possible. It's a possible way to alter it if you believe in destiny. But
manifestation.
yeah, so, but yeah, I don't know. Reading this makes me realize, like, yeah, you know, live in the present times, live in the nows. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But and then how you were talking about how work you feel like you were saying you feel like you're like you I feel like are you saying like, oh, there's something more I can do that'll make me happy, like in a career? Is that what you're trying to say? Or
yeah, I'm trying to say, yeah, that I mean,
something you can enjoy, right?
My job is a good.
Like,
No,
something
I can enjoy.
Oh, okay.
Like I want something that will bring me fulfillment and joy. And I like my job. There's certain aspects of my job that I like. I'm not saying, oh my God, it's the worst job ever, because it's not. I feel really lucky and grateful to have this job.
Yeah.
But it leaves me wanting more. You know, it's lacking in something. And I mean, it's obvious that I know this because I work there every day, and I every day I'm just like, oh, I wish I was doing this, or I wish I was doing that, you know? And yeah, that's what I mean, that I want to do more. I want to find something that brings me more meaning, I guess.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked is because there's this book that I read. It's called the oh man, I just went brain fart right now. Hold on. It's called the Prisoners of Your Thoughts, and it talks about the work life. It talks about the work life, and it talks about it gives this example of where there's this mail lady walking down the street, handing out mails to the residential area, right? And and this guy sees this lady every day, and she sees her walking the same route every day, you know, and he obviously thinks, he's like, oh man, that seems boring, you know. Then like a couple of days later, she comes down the same street, and she's whistling a tune or whatever, and he's like, man, he goes, why are you so happy? He goes, you do this like every day, and doesn't this get boring? And she's like, no. She goes, I look at the overall picture of this is, I'm like a middleman. I am the messenger. I connect everybody. I connect the world to what's going on or what is needed. I give them like, I don't know, like I give them checks and stuff like that. So she found the positive in it, and she says when she goes to work, she goes in knowing that basically she's that messenger. She's that connection to everyone, and which is cool too, because then I see myself when I go to work. I'm like, oh, I'm connecting patients with doctors, and and relating messages back and forth to each other, and the overall at the end the goal is met by basically giving this patient a positive visit. Also making sure his or her health is cured. Make sure it's health and they're healthy and stuff like that. So I see myself as that. That's my meaning to work life, is connecting the patient to doctor, and so, which is cool. I don't know. Maybe you guys can see, like, find ways like that. Like what's the message behind your job, and but it's a pretty cool book. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
Yeah, but
yeah, 'cause it's all about perspective, really, like how you see things.
Yeah, exactly. Positivity, you gotta keep a positive mind. I mean, sometimes it's hard, but yeah.
Yeah, it is hard, but I think it makes for a good life.
Yeah, exactly.
Positivity.
Heck yeah.
It's us standing in our truth. It's us affirming. It's us releasing judgment about how things should be, and it's accepting and affirming that, that, like you mentioned, that it's the cards that were dealt, right? The cards that were dealt, it's what we're going to choose to do with that hand. Me personally, I'm going to put it down and I don't want to play. I want to play a different game. I'm going to go play with Monopoly or something else where it's going to be a little bit more engaging for me, simply because, again, I choose to not hold the hand. And I think that it's something that I can definitely see how it's transcended into the work that I do, because I'm an advocate. I'm a client advocate. I do advocacy work, and so I think that comes from having to do advocacy work on myself, and that is that part of that love, that self-care, to invest love that I know that I have, that I can give into myself, and then it transcends into other aspects. And so I think it's so important to recognize that it's our lives, that we get to choose what we want to do. And if what we're doing is where we are at, it's where we are meeting ourselves, you're standing in your truth. When you're standing in your truth, you're learning to be honest with yourself, and that's a skill that not many folks can say they've expert at. And that's a kind of guilt that that's not the word I'm looking for. It's a kind of truth that it truly validates when our anxious thoughts are happening, because it's us simply wanting to ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? How can I figure things out differently? What perspective can I change? Those are all questions that revolve around us. We're asking questions about our own truth, and I think that is foundation to living an honest, truthful life. Because if we live our life for someone else, we're not necessarily living our true, authentic life. But when we live our lives for ourselves, for the love of ourselves, we get to actually do both win-win solutions. It's not just me living my life for the people that I love and care about. It's me. Yeah, I'm part of that, because I love and care about myself. Again, that's definitely something that in the quotes of wisdom, in the podcast with the quotes of wisdom, one of the ones that I brought up was the release of judgment. I can pull it up really quickly. The willingness to let go of all the preconceptions about what should be, how it should be, and when it should be. Releasing judgment means learning to be honest with ourselves. It allows our knowledge to evolve into wisdom. It moves us from defending to trusting, from separateness to interconnection, and from fear to love. I think one of the most beautiful things about our STEM brain is the fact that we actually have the ability to respond, not react, respond. Our STEM brain will have us react, but we actually, as human beings, we have a prefrontal cortex that doesn't develop until we're 25, 26. And so when we understand that reality, that's us standing in our truth, and to recognize that we're young. We're so young for how much we've accomplished, how much we've lived, how our years do not hold so true to what our actual brain years are. And we have a world of wisdom around us, but it's because it's the world of wisdom through us. We've talked about it in podcasts before. Everyone has their gifts. So we will focus more on what gifts do I have. That's actually recognizing that I'm in fear. I need to focus on the present. I'm going to open it up.
Yeah.
The present's a gift. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to figure out what's going on, and I'm going to use my anxious, my worry to really help me guide through that. Because I know for me, it's actually what I had to do. I had to figure out what it was that I was anxious of. Well, it's because I was scared of something. What was I scared of? I was scared to be vulnerable. I was scared to be perceived as somebody who was vulnerable and weak, etc., etc. It was falling into those social scripts, social constructs of what it is to be a man, or what these gender norms can actually, what gender norms we actually have to like live up to. And again, Chris, you echoed it. It's recognizing we are the prisoners of the rules we set ourselves to. That being said, if we put those rules on ourselves, if we've agreed to agreements that were not given to us, we didn't have a choice. And so to recognize, especially us as adults now, we can make that choice, and it starts with that perspective. It's the only thing we can shift. Perspective.
Okay. All right, let me see. Hold on. I got another one. Okay, so Diego is Diego's. So first he had replied, messing around though. He said boats and hoes. but then he's like, not. Then he.
I love the movie.
Yeah. I was like, where did you get that from? It sounds so familiar. It's from Step Brothers. Yeah, but then he replied after, and he's all like, hey, but for real though, what makes a good life is the power of choice. So, yeah, so power of choice. I mean, just plain and simple, yeah, power of choice. You get to choose what makes your life good. You know, you get to choose how you're gonna take on a day. Yeah, you're gonna choose how you take on a day, you know, and you're gonna choose at the end of the day. You're gonna choose between either was it a good day or was it a bad day, you know. Overall, you have that power of choice. But, I don't know. That's how I see it, plain and simple.
Actually, I missed what Diego said, because I don't know if I lost connection for a bit, but I didn't hear.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, he said what makes life good is the power of choice.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, like I was just saying, you know, it's plain and simple. It's true, you know, because it's up to us to decide what makes our life good. And you know, you take on a day differently. Every day is different, so you take on that day the way you think it's gonna turn out into a good day. So, which makes your life good at the end. So, but that's how I seen it straight when I read it. I was like, oh man, that's, like I said, it's plain and simple, you know, straightforward. But yeah.
I just want to add, there's a quote that I love that goes under, I don't know who says it, so I'll just say anonymous. What we do not change, we're choosing. And that really, really echoed to me, because growing up, I never envisioned myself, seeing myself like as a counselor or anything like that. And that's the role I'm in. I love it. I love being able to help folks understand that they have a voice. That they have a voice, that they can use their voice, they can make choices for themselves, and that's a restoration of autonomy that has been stripped. Our autonomy has been stripped multiple times, especially in our developmental stages. And so to understand that, especially as adults, we don't have to conform to these norms, conform to these ideologies that don't align with our values, that simply do not align with our values. And when we can choose to to say, you know what, that's the value that I don't uphold. I'm gonna choose not to. And now I can see myself as a counselor. I can see myself as somebody that can be somewhat of a guidance, an advocate for that extent. Because if I listened to what society told me, I wouldn't be doing the job I'm doing now, and I've done before. And so it's choose what makes you happy, choose what you want to do, and that actually, it's like a liberating. One of my favorite emotions that I struggled with growing up was anger, and anger's message is that of change. And so I've learned to reframe that and to see it as like my homie and be like, look, what are we gonna change today? Mm-hmm. What is it that we're gonna change? It's a powerful force, and we've seen it in many moments in history, moments in our own lives, where we can see how anger can actually help the situation when it's not destructive. And so it's recognizing that there's a choice that we make when we choose to yell at someone, or we choose to burn bridges, for lack of another way of saying it. And that's a choice. It's a choice to burn a bridge and just say, you know what, I'm going to respect my boundaries and say I'm going to not engage anymore. We have that right, and it's a privilege because not everyone knows that they have that right or can recognize it, or again, that genuinely is an autonomy that has been stripped from them. And so to be able to restore that for folks as part of like my role in terms of advocacy work, I would not have been able to do it if I listened or conformed to what society was saying.
Yeah. What you got, Vero?
Honestly, for me, choice is like number one for a good life. Like when we were first talking about, that was one of the topics that we wanted to discuss. What makes a good life? Like the first thing that came to mind was whatever the hell you want. You know, that's what makes a good life, because you choose what you want for yourself. And I think, going back to Nano, you were talking about fear. We hide behind fear. We're scared. We don't want to choose, or we don't want to admit that we have choice, because honestly, we want to find something to blame for not having a good life. If you don't have a good life, you have that power to make changes. And I recognize that sometimes there are circumstances that are a little more difficult, and I'm not saying like, oh, it's so easy to have a good life. No, but I'm saying that a lot of us have that power of choice, and we hide behind not wanting to admit that. You know what I mean? Like, we want to say like, oh, well, I don't have this because of this and this. You know, like you want to make excuses for yourself, because it's so much easier to sit back and say, oh, I don't have a good life because I don't have a good this and that, and that's not my fault. You know, that's that, you know. But it's really up to us. It's up to us to kind of, you know, write our own narrative. It's up to us to, you know, put ourselves in situations that are beneficial for us, that will help us grow, that will help us develop. And it's really an internal thing, you know. When you get to know yourself, you get to love yourself, you really get to realize that your choices, what am I trying to say? Like, it's easier to give in, to admit, like, you know what, I don't have a good life necessarily right now because there's something that I need to change. And that within itself is a choice, to be able to say, I'm going to change things, and not being like a victim of life. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, of course, I don't want to like downplay anyone who is actually having.
She cut off, huh? Can you hear us still?
I'm talking about if you're, you know, don't live in fear, and don't be afraid to admit that if you were to change certain things in your life, that you would have a better life, or the things would be better for you.
And they would. They completely would. I hear you wanting to get back to us, so I'm going to give you a moment.
Yeah, it's cutting off a little bit. Good, Vero?
Is it me?
Yeah, I think so. Let me see.
Sorry, it's always me.
Nah, don't worry about it.
No, you're good. You're good. To truly recognize that there's a, when we place blame onto an external factor, that as it's self-sabotaging. We go into the cycle of self-sabotage where we blame, and then we expect people or situations or job or other experiences that we want to manifest to fulfill that part of our happy, that part of our joy, to produce literal serotonin in our brain. And that's, again, it's self-sabotaging because we're putting expectations on something else to fulfill the need of our own capability. Whereas when we actually take accountability, we take accountability for our emotion, for our truth, for where we stand with ourselves, we are able to be the individual to do those mechanisms that are actually going to pull us out of that blame cycle, that self-sabotage cycle. And it becomes a whole nother cycle of self-success. The cycle of self-success is one of self-regulation, recognizing that there's going to be a million and one things that we cannot control, but there's going to be a few things that we can actually control. And when we focus on that, we're already focusing on the positive. I love using the phrase forward thinking. Shout out Emily for introducing that. Forward thinking, forward concepts, understanding that when there's a problem, there's a solution. And a lot of times our emotion is actually going to be what can guide us there. And when we recognize what that could look like, there's messages that our body's telling us that when we can recognize them, we're already not putting it into a blame cycle. We're putting it into an accountability cycle, a cycle of success, and that's choice. That is complete choice. You have the choice of a self-sabotage cycle or a self-regulation cycle, one of self-success. And I think that's, I don't like using too much dichotomous or making things kind of like and or, but in all respect, what we choose, let's not overwhelm ourselves with options. When we overwhelm ourselves, we're not able to concretely decide what is it that I want to do to move forward. Do I want to stay in this emotional state, or even to recognize that there's an emotion, that there's something happening. What's going on, body? Let's talk. Let's figure it out. And that's already welcoming a piece of yourself that, again, doesn't define you. It's part of you. I call it my homie, but everyone interprets their emotions differently. Everyone understands their body differently. We are the only experts of our own selves. I don't know Vero better than and me or Vero don't know Chris better than Chris knows himself. Vero knows herself better than anybody could, and I know myself better than anybody could. We are the experts of our own lives. And that the counselor in me is like, that's total narrative therapy, y'all. I engage.
Hey, that's cool that you say that, because I was working at a different clinic on Saturday, and I was sitting on a certain desk, and on this desk there's a rock. There's a rock there, and I don't know whose it is, or but they wrote a message on the rock, and it says, "Speak to yourself at least once a day, because that's the truest person you know." And then I was like, "Oh damn!" And then I just kept thinking about that. I was like, "Heck yeah!" I was like, "I'm gonna keep this in mind all the time, every day." Yeah, but that's cool that you said that. Not only you're, that's true. It's true.
There's so many important relationships in every single one of our lives.
Oh, yeah.
There's more to come. We're gonna meet people that are gonna be very, very significant to our lives.
Yep.
But the most relationship we will each ever have, the most important one, is that one with ourselves. It's not to minimize my relationship with anybody else. No, it's to actually provide win-win solution. The most important relationship is that of with me, and when I value that, when I uphold that relationship, it's going to manifest into, and it's going to trickle into my other relationship, any other relationship that I build.
That's tight.
It's why when we live a truth that is for someone else, where if I do something to make someone else happy, it's not that I'm not going to be happy, it's that if they're not happy, now I probably already dictated my happiness based on someone else's happiness. And happiness we can't chase happiness. We can't. There's no house, there's no specific look, there's no championship that you can win that's gonna say, okay, you're happy. No. It's a choice that we make to recognize that it's within ourselves. Otherwise, we're gonna exhaust ourselves chasing it.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that's tight.
I just wanted to add that I think it's really cool that as adults, I mean, we grew up together, obviously, but as adults, I think it's really awesome that we even, like, what am I trying to say? Like, we recognize that within us, that we need to love ourselves, we need to know ourselves. That's really cool, this, like, self-awareness. And earlier I was talking about, like, we were talking about choice, but I just want to add that it takes a lot of work, I think, to get to that point, to say, I have the power to choose my life. I have the power to make decisions for myself. It takes a lot of work, and I hope it didn't come across as being like, oh, it's so easy to choose. No, I recognize that there's struggle, because a lot of the time we're not having a good life, or there's things in our life that we struggle with. I think it has a lot to do with our childhood. It has a lot to do with, like, childhood trauma. When we're looking for blame, when we're looking for people and situations to blame for our own circumstances, it's not a clear-cut answer. You know, we have to look back to our childhood trauma, or even adult trauma, you know, trauma that happened, like, last week, you know. And I think, I don't know, I feel like I'm really proud of us for recognizing that, because that in and of itself is also a choice. To recognize that, you know what, I'm having problematic thoughts, problematic behavior that's keeping me from choosing a good life or a better life. Let me work on that. Let me work on myself. And if anyone out there is listening and, you know, you think like, oh, I never saw it so easy to make a choice for myself, that's because it's not easy. It takes a lot of work, and it's a lot of privilege to be able to sit back and really work on yourself. Again, I want to recognize our moms, our mothers, because I feel like that is also a privilege. I can't imagine with what my mom was going through as a young mom, I can't imagine her really prioritizing self-love and self-care. And I say that because I saw it. I don't think that my mom really took the time to get to know herself and love herself. And I pray that it's something that she is having the opportunity to do so now, you know, now that she, you know, we're not so little anymore. She can kind of get to know herself. That's a whole other conversation about women and, you know, having that ability to, like, love and learn about themselves. But I just want to say that I'm really proud of us for having this type of conversation, you know, that we recognize that making a choice and, you know, to better our lives is an option for us, and that we love and accept ourselves and are willing to put in the time and the work to do that. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of, like, having to sort through your past struggles, you know what I mean? Or even having to face them, like, head on. Because a lot of us, you know, or at least I did for a long time, you try to kind of hide behind what you went through as a child, and kind of, that's where you look for blame a lot too. Like, oh, well, this happened to me, so I'm gonna do this, or, you know. And I think it takes a lot of work to kind of, like, almost like an out-of-body experience, you know. Like, you sit back and look at your life and you decide for yourself, and that doesn't come easy.
standing your truth takes a lot of courage. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to stand in your truth and to live your life and to say, you know what, these are the things that I'm working through, or this trigger that I'm experiencing right now is not here right now. It's something from before. The emotion, the bodily response. That is a hurdle that we have to jump. That we shouldn't have to jump. But yet here we are, and it's that part of ourselves that are when we find ourselves. I always say, when we find ourselves in moments where we feel like we don't fit in, or when we find ourselves in situations that we're not seeing, we are those folks who are meant to change that type of society. And that's our parents. That's our parents. Our moms were people who have had to overcome situations that all we can do is to say to see it, to validate it, and to say that I see that you struggled. I see that there was more adversity than needed, and that's society, right? There's a societal, and I would actually really love to talk about the difficulty that it can be to live a happy life, and there are all of these limitations, or not limitations, expectations, and for lack of another way of saying it, violence towards individuals that inhibit us from being able to live a happy life. It's one of those things where I say, if there's anyone to place, I always say, like, don't place blame on necessarily an individual or people, but literally society. There's a social structure, there's a dominant structure out there that does exactly what it's doing. We focus on the dominant structure works in such a way that we don't look at the dominant structure as a problem. We actually see it as like, well, if that wasn't here, we wouldn't even be here. And that's not true. The dominant structure only will crumble when we recognize that there's people being oppressed by this dominant structure, and we actually have to be able to see it, face it, and recognize, how are we infiltrating this? How are we, because we're all a product of our society. And being a product of this society, we have to recognize that there's experiences that actually do hold people in a position to recognize that there's no choice, there's no other way. And so in those moments, to find yourselves as that, I say unicorns and phoenixes is why we exist. We're unicorns and phoenixes because the world tells us we don't exist and we don't exist, yet here we are, flying, thriving, and echándole ganas porque one of the things that my mom really shown me is that there's not a choice sometimes. I'm not doing the things that I'm doing because I want to, or et cetera, et cetera. If I don't do it, I don't eat, or if I don't do it, I don't meet my basic needs. And there's Abraham Maslow. He talks about I want to say he's a psychologist, but he talks about the hierarchical needs. There's basic needs that we have as humans, and it starts with psychological, safety, social and belonging. It affects our esteem and our self-actualization. When these things are not being met, it can deteriorate the self-esteem. It can hurt. It can detriment our ability to see success. But when these needs are being met, we're able to survive situations. We're a lot more successful, and there's transformation. There's transformation, and that transformation is that of us. Like, we are the transformation. We are the people who are, again, living lives that people said, oh, we're gonna do A, B, C, D, and here we are doing X, Y, Z, and no one saw it coming, and that's awesome. That's awesome that we were able to put a shock on society, but also to put an individuality to the lived lives of those that produced us, those that instilled resiliency, instilled determination, and the will to not give up, not to give up, to echar, como digo, echarle ganas, porque no hay de otra.
Okay. See. Oh, all right. So I got this other one. This one's Alex. He sent this. All right, I'll read it. It goes, "Stop trying to make everyone happy. You're not tequila." so, so
Reach.
yeah, so I don't know. I expected it from him too. I was like, it would be Alex sending that, but yeah, stop trying to make everyone happy. You're not tequila. I don't know. What do you guys get from that?
My science brain just goes into this reality that alcohol is a depressant.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So it's again, anytime we take when we are trying to fulfill our joy or happy in anything else but ourselves, our own inability to make, if we, that is keeping ourselves from making a choice for ourselves about our happiness. And it has side effects. There's a natural consequences, is what we call them. Natural consequences are that of alcohol is a depressant. You're gonna have a great time when it hits. When the tequila hits, you're gonna take those shots. The social aspect, hey, cheers, salud. I'm right there with you. Don't get me wrong. But there is gonna be that decrease in serotonin. There is gonna be that decrease in oxytocin and norepinephrine. And in alongside, it produces a reward system, dopamine itself. So we think that next time I'm feeling blue or next time I'm feeling sad or whatever emotion that I don't necessarily want to feel, not happy, and I'm gonna think that I'm gonna go back to that tequila. I'm gonna go back to that tequila to go be happy again, and it's just to go again with the idea of self-sabotaging, the cycle of self-sabotage. You blame your hangover for the tequila, but you don't recognize that the hangover is actually your choice.
Your choice.
Yeah. Right? And don't get me wrong, y'all. I love good cheers. I love my tequila. But that's not your happiness. And who am I to say that, right? Because I'm not tequila. I can't tell y'all what you're happy is.
Nice.
I've seen that quote before too, but it doesn't say tequila. It says tacos. It says stop trying to make everyone happy. You're not tacos. But I think it's true. I think it really takes away from I don't know, from trying to enjoy things when you're not doing it for yourself, when you're doing it for other people, when you're trying to make other people happy. And I feel like, especially if you're not getting it back, like if this person that you're trying to make happy or these people that you're trying to make so happy, are they giving it back? Are they putting in the same effort for you? And that's something that you really have to take a look at, because I feel like when with your family, and there's certain people that I will do that for, that I will try my best to make happy, and they're one of my priority people because they give it back to me, like their happiness is my priority, and in return, like my happiness is their priority too. And I think there's just such a disconnect, and there's a lot of there's not a lot of balance when you're doing that for people who don't do it for you, when you're going above and beyond and the people that you're doing it for don't even care.
Appreciate it.
That creates a lot of turmoil internally and in the relationship with whoever this person is, because they take advantage. And I feel like a lot of us learn that the hard way, that make yourself happy above and beyond, above all. That's my thing. I strive to make myself happy, and the people who also want to see me happy. That makes sense. Why are you gonna go and support people who don't cheer you on? Who don't put in the effort for you?
It's true. It's very, very true.
And I think that's why it's so easy to say what makes a good life is family. Because a lot of the time, they want it for us too, you know? So it's like a reciprocating relationship, a back and forth between giving and taking and happiness, you know? And a lot of people don't, you know, they'll have people in their lives that just take. They don't know how to give back.
Yeah.
That's so... I see that a lot. Definitely see that a lot. And I know I myself, I've done that. I've been the person to give more than, and to be okay with the not give back. And I don't think that it's a, I don't want it to sound like it's like when we do an act of a good deed, when we do a good deed that we expected in return, but there is a cause and effect. Is it a cause and effect? There's again natural consequence that if we see a person struggling and they need support, well, it's not that we can help, it's that we have the option to help, but it's up to them to recognize, you know, hey, I need some help. Are they going to ask for help? Right? To show folks that, hey, you can ask for help. Know that I'm available if you need anything, et cetera, et cetera. And then again, when that's not reciprocated, it's felt, it's seen, it doesn't go unrecognized, and it's where definitely some people can burn some bridges. I know I've definitely been somebody that has had bridges burned and burned bridges myself, and so it's important to understand the complexities behind that, the mechanisms, that of survival and that of self-respect, because again, we have to have boundaries in order, surrounding our happiness. We have to have boundaries, because one of my favorite things to identify is this idea of Q-tips. You have to use our Q-tips, but taking things personal simply because it's truly going to affect. We allow it to. If we allow it to. And so if someone's not reciprocating the energy, we don't have to continue. We can stop the energy, and it's not that we're burning a bridge, it's simply us respecting our boundaries. We're respecting our boundaries. Hey, I'm gonna pat myself on the back for respecting my boundaries.
Just see, I got another one right here. So, stability. Can't see it. Somewhere there. My bad. Yeah, so just stability. Anonymously. I'm sad. So, I feel stability, of course, makes a good life. Being stable. Stable enough to keep a roof over your head. You know, food in the refrigerator. A job. Having income come regularly and stuff, you know, create stability. I mean, I feel like stability and the peace of mind go together for me, just because once I know I'm at peace at mind, I know I'm stable enough to enjoy that day. So that's how I see stability. I don't know what do you guys see about what do you guys see in stability? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think stability is really important for me now more than ever. I think when we were younger, Nano, we would be like, oh, let's be spontaneous, you know, and that's really fun too. But there's something about having a roof over your head, like you said, Chris, like having food in the fridge, knowing you're going to get a paycheck in a week or two, like that does contribute to peace of mind. And I love to mix things up, but knowing that things are falling into place, that things are going to be a constant, that's really reassuring and comforting for me. I always want to take it back to our childhood, but I didn't have a lot. I mean, I didn't really have that. My stability was my mom, because I saw her working for us and doing things for us, and I knew that I could always count on her. But other than that, I mean, I didn't really feel so stable all the time, you know? Like, there were days when it's like, well, what are we going to eat tomorrow? Or is the light going to be on? Or are we moving again? That type of thing. And I just really, I appreciate my stability now because it just brings so much comfort. And that contributes to the peace of mind.
I have to admit, when you first brought that that answer to us, Chris, I thought my young self Vero was like, oh no, I don't do well with stability. I'm not stable. But you brought up a really, really amazing point about how there are certain parts of stability that we need. We thrive more when we have peace of mind and we have an ability to consistently hold on to that realm of peace of mind. Stability in the sense of our bodily response, having consistency with that, and stability in again, a roof over your head, meeting those basic needs, right? Social, psychological, what were they? Self-actualization, self-esteem, social belonging, safety, psychological. Like when we have these needs met, it creates a stability that, again, when you have a foundation that's solid, anything that you put up can crumble down, but your foundation is going to be what holds it. That part of yourself is not. And I feel that because when my godmother passed away, I lost my stability. I didn't have stability anymore. I didn't have my source of comfort. I didn't have my normal. I didn't have my. The world turns upside down, and you don't know what's gonna happen next, and that is scary. That's a loss of stability. It's a loss of value, and I think that's where I'm at now to recognize that any stability that I do have, relationships that are constant, meaningful, and genuine, I hold on to those. I value those, and I want to ensure that stability is going to last, that stability is going to stay there, simply because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and so tell those people you love them, and don't change. Like I'll tell people I love them, and it's never about me hearing it back. It's the fact that I said it. The fact that I told someone that I love them, and they know every time they see me, right now they might not get the hug, but they'll get the I love you. And that's stable, that's stability, that's a piece of stability. I'm stuck at texting. I'm stuck with my phone. I'm not great about the phone situation, but in person, I'm present. I'm in it. I'm stable in person. I'm consistent in person. It's a whole nother realm, and I genuinely value that type of stability so much more, simply because you see it. It's a structure. It's your upbringing, and when you look up at the world and you see that lack of stability, it is chaotic. It does produce emotions that are difficult to process, and that in itself is so difficult to overcome. It's that of grief. Grief is a love that you feel like you cannot give, and so it becomes this internalized pain that is called grief. And when you can recognize that in itself is stability, that's still the love that this person instilled in you, and that's still the love that you can give to this person in different aspects, in different ways, it becomes a whole nother level of stability that I know in my heart I'd be lost without it. I'd be lost if I didn't have certain songs that remind me, or certain experiences, certain memories that hold on to that part of stability, the one part of stability that I go to hold on to. Because it's, again, when we don't have it, you learn to value. You learn to value what you have and those that you do have in this present moment, in this present day, and that's where the gratitude comes in. You learn to love through loss, and I think all I want to say to end it is that I love you, Vero. I love you, Chris.
Oh, I love you.
Heck yeah, all the fam.
Now they're stable.
Let me see. So I have another one here. Happiness. It says, doing what makes you happy. Everyone has different things that make them happy. So there are no right or wrong answers to what you should do or have. So this would have gone good right after. We were talking about this on how everyone has a choice to choose what makes them happy, basically. And man, this would have gone real good right after it. But yeah, that's. I mean, I can validate that through this podcast episode. Just through a peace of mind, or what was it? It was a power of choice, I believe.
Power of choice.
The power of choice. Yeah. But heck yeah, happiness, doing what makes you happy. Yeah. So, let's see. I have another one too here. See, we have three more. So, this other one too. It goes, don't sweat the small stuff. So, don't sweat the small stuff. What do you guys think?
That's where I truly want to echo what Vero was saying at the beginning. Your job is not your happiness. Job is not your happiness. I have many lived experience. What was that? I'm sorry, Vero?
I said it can be, but it doesn't need to be like your job.
I learned that your job, if I die tomorrow, they're gonna hire someone, and they're gonna be able to do that job, and that's great. I think that's an ability, especially the job that I have. I think we need someone to be able to do the work that's happening, that needs to get done. But there's things that happen at work that we don't have to carry home. We don't need to take it to our loved ones. We don't need to especially when we do any kind of work that can be taxing to ourselves. Physical labor, emotional labor, psychological labor, all of this labor that really does inhibit our ability to recognize that, to see the good in it, to see the positive in it. Sometimes it's really difficult because we do stress over these little things, like not sending the email, or one of my difficulties is my grammar. I don't have the best grammar. I've shared. I was never a straight A student. That being said, it's my language. I don't speak perfect English, and I will never speak perfect Spanish. Soy pocho y con orgullo. So my emails are going to come out that way. So to stress over this idea of professionalism, out the window. At Chico State, we did these kind of like courses, but they're not courses. They're just like little workshops where you can learn how to be an entrepreneur and be in like business attire, and how to like literally hold your cup and your plate in the same hand, so that and actually your non-dominant hand, so that you always have your hand to like shake an individual that you're about to meet. Like, that stuff to me doesn't apply. Not only does it not apply, it doesn't spark my joy. It doesn't spark my happiness. And so to me, those are like little sweat things that I don't even have to listen to.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. On Monday, guess what's still gonna be there? The work that I didn't do on Friday. So I'm gonna enjoy my weekend. It's fine. So like those things, that's how I interpret that, and I that transcends into a lot of aspects of my life. There's times where my closet will be a mess, and I'll be like, you know what? It's fine. Your closet's a mess. It's fine. At least as long as you're not in the closet, that's a good thing. Focus on the positive, because that is sometimes all we can do to really dive into the reality that when we sweat, small things, again, that's cortisol rushing through our body, adrenaline rushing through our body, that can definitely deteriorate. It can definitely deteriorate, and I can definitely speak to it. It keeps people in closets.
Nice. How about you, Vero?
That was really hard for me. I feel anytime people say stuff like that, I understand, but I also feel personally attacked because that is what I do. I sweat the small things. Yeah. I am very I'm pretty meticulous about certain things. I do think about those little things, the little details, and I do stress over them. And I think that there's a lot that I can brush off, but that's just part of my personality. I think at this point, I sweat the little things, and I don't know if it has to do with like being like the oldest child, or I do let the little things not get to me, but it's something that I pay attention to. Like I can't just let the little things go, which it would probably be beneficial to me, but I think with my personality, I can't do that. It's really hard for me not to think about every little detail that makes up the bigger picture, and I wish I was more like, whatever, but no, I can't do that. I mean, I know that it probably could, but you know what I mean? Like, it's such a natural part of me to think of all the details and all the little things, and I wish that I wasn't always that way, because I think it does contribute to, my feelings of anxiousness when I'm thinking about that one little detail on the document sitting on my desk. Like, I wish I could be like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, I can't do that. It's hard for me.
Let me see. So, I have another one here. Let me see. It goes, not being bitter, wanting the best for others, and not taking things personal. Yeah, so
use that Q-tip, y'all.
Yeah, not being bitter. I mean, I've learned to tackle on the days like that. Waking up in a happy mood, and trying to make the best out of the day. I even try to uplift people. Go to work. Hey, good morning. Like it's Monday. Good morning. Everyone hates a Monday, but yeah, just and wanting the best for people, for others. Personally, I do this a lot as well. For example, if someone comes up to me like, "Hey, I'm doing this job now, and it's my own business and this and that. I want to see people strive and fulfill their dreams and becoming their own boss, or it doesn't even have to be in the workforce or anything. It can be like like me, for example, myself. I'm happy with myself because I'm doing this journal now, and it's not only just helping me. There's some people that ask me like, "Hey, what else have you wrote in there?" I'm like, "Oh, take a look at it. Have a look at it for yourself." And they see positivity. So I like seeing that positivity grow into others. But yeah, and then not taking things personal. That's a big one. Not taking things personal. If someone calls you dumb, someone says you're not smart, don't take that personally. Because then if you do, you're basically agreeing with that person. And that's basically giving them the power to control what you are or who you're gonna be, or so yeah, don't take things personal. Rather than taking it personal, try to figure out why that person, or there's something going on in their life that's bothering them, and it's a way for them to take that out on you. But yeah, don't take it personal, and just try to figure out what's hurting that person inside. And that goes with wanting the best for others, because you're trying to figure out helping that person out in that situation. So, but yeah, I like this one. This is awesome.
I love it. It's what we lack in the world, I believe. What we lack, empathy towards others. I don't have to walk in someone else's shoes to understand struggle, and sometimes you don't need to see the sweat off someone to see that they're struggling. It's our body. Our body is language. Our body language says a lot about us. Our body language speaks for us many times. And so to be receptive to those signals, to that style of communication, I think one of the most important things is, if someone is being hostile towards you, you don't deserve that. And there's something going on with that individual. Hurt people who have been hurt are people who hurt people. It's a learned behavior. And so more than anything, you can be the person to help them start that healing, to help them see nice, because you fight fire with fire, you're only going to get a bigger fire. And that's not the intention of the fire. The intention of the fire is not necessarily to destroy or to destruct. It's to actually create a new beginning. Create a new beginning that could not have been started if it wasn't for the fire. So to fight that on with some more fire, I'm not saying let's put it out with water. No, of course not. But to really meet that fire where it's at and to say, you know, hey, there's something going on here. What's going on? And it's not about us having answers for that individual. We're not going to have the answers for anybody but ourselves. But when we engage in conversation, especially with someone that has disrespected us or disrespected us, you're showing that individual who disrespected you that they are worthy of respect, despite their lived experiences, their choices, of being disrespectful. Because again, that's learned. That person has to unlearn that they were disrespected before they can even begin to recognize that what they're engaging in is disrespectful behavior. It's a process. It's challenging, and the more individuals that we have that embody that meet those folks where they're at, that's healing. That's cross-generational healing. And then my mom has this amazing, I don't know if I've shared this before on this channel, but she has this amazing philosophy with students. She's a preschool teacher, and so when she engages with students who might have a more there's a term for more of an aggressive than assertive kind of behavior. She's not gonna think that child is like the bad child, etc., etc. No, that's the child she's gonna get closest to. That's the child she's gonna make a point to get closest to, because not only is she gonna miss that child at the end of the school year, but she's gonna learn the most from that individual, the most from that child. And that is a lesson that I'm so fortunate to be able to have instilled by my mom, and to try to be that person. It's an agent of change. It's meeting people where they're at in their struggle, because again, when someone is being mean to, it's because someone has been mean to them. There's a defense mechanism that they've built up, and now they're projecting that learned behavior onto whoever they now perceive as the next vulnerable. Remember, y'all, vulnerability, it takes a lot of courage to stand in your vulnerability, and it takes strength. So anybody who is being vulnerable, they're not being weak. They're simply struggling to finding that strength. And again, you meet someone where they're at there, you get to restore a piece of respect that they themselves can't see for themselves. We need more of that.
You have any input on that, Vero?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to become bitter. I think if you don't watch yourself, I don't know, I feel like it's easy. And I say that honestly because, you know, every now and then I'll have these thoughts. You know, I'll feel bitter about something, and I'll have to check myself, like, whoa, you know, that's not the type of attitude that I want to live by. I don't want to, you know, because we all know people who are bitter, and you don't get anything from it. You really don't. Just to look down on people, just to feel like people don't deserve their happiness, or people, you know, to be judgmental. I feel like that's such a sad life. And if we're going to talk about what makes a bad life, it's bitterness.
Yeah.
I really do think that. Yeah. And people who are usually bitter, like, you know, that person said, you know, you got to be happy for others. People who are bitter don't know how to do that, because they can't even be happy for their own selves, you know? And I think that's such a powerful thing, to be happy for other people. regardless of how you feel. I love to see people thrive. I love to see people succeed. Chris, like you said, when people have businesses, I always wish the best for them because that really contributes to your own life at the end of the day. Like, to be happy for others, like, you know, the quote that, you know, by when a candle lights another candle so it can shine, it doesn't take anything away from the original candle. You know, like both flames can burn so bright together. And the other thing about not taking things personally, that's also hard for me because I do tend to care what other people think or say about me, whether it be to my face or behind my back. And I feel like in the job that I do, I feel like everyone has their eyes on me because there's only one in me and so many of them, and everyone's looking at me. You know, so I feel like it's something that I've really overcome. Not all the way yet, you know, but it's something that I've really learned, that don't worry about what other people have to say about you because, like you said, Chris, it's like something that's going on with them, right? Like something that it's not really your concern. And there's a couple quotes with that I have to remind myself. The first one is, what other people think of you is none of your business, which is really true because I used to think, well, it's about me. I want to know what they think. But now I'm like, I don't care what you think. It's none of my business. I don't want to know. And the other thing is that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So nobody can make you feel bad, or no one can look down on you if you don't let them. You know, you have that, again, that choice, that power of choice to ignore it and just not agree with them. Like you said, Chris, like if someone says you're dumb and you're like, okay, you believe them, then that means you're agreeing with them, and that's not true.
Yeah. Okay.
That totally reminds me of, if I can, my mom told me this one time because I was doing that. I was letting people's words, I was taking what people were saying to heart. And it's because I valued these people. I think one of the more important lessons that my mom taught me in that moment was that you care because you have a heart. And that, don't forget that that's the heart, that you want to have that heart. But you also want to be a duck in water. And the people's words that are attacking us are the water. But we are ducks, we have feathers, and those feathers are resistant to the water. They roll right off. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, Mom, you're brilliant, kiss your brain. But also like that, it's true. It's so true that we can choose to be ducks in a world full of water. We find ourselves surrounded by it. We can still fly away. Still choose to move out of the setting, move out of the perspective, or to truly respect the boundary of, you know what, that person is saying things that don't apply to me. It's their own opinion, and like you said, Vettel, their opinion is none of our business. That's our business to choose.
We had a little bit of technical difficulties. All right, so we're back, and we're down to the last two. And the next one that I have here is says, making an effort to have a positive mindset, even when things are hard and we don't feel like trying. The negativity affects our own soul the most. So, making an effort to have a positive mindset. We had something similar to that earlier. You know, you gotta keep. I believe it was Tweety that said it. You know, you gotta stay humble. Don't you keep going no matter how hard it is. You know, you gotta stay strong. Keep that positive mindset because once you tell yourself you fail, or once you tell yourself that I can't do it, you know, you're not gonna want to even pursue that anymore. So always keep a positive mindset, because that's gonna give you that push, that extra push. Even though it's hard, you know it's hard. You've already failed once, so you already know what it takes to overcome that failure. So, you know, keeping that positive mind even once you failed it should help you throughout your journey and help you pursue what you're trying to achieve. So, um, let's see what else to say. The negative.
If I could.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
No, you're good.
No, go for it. You were gonna say something about negativity, so.
Oh yeah.
Go for it.
So here it says that negativity affects your own soul the most, which is true. Obviously your actions are more than likely going to have more effect on yourself. It will have effect to those around you, but it does affect you first, because it's you doing harm to yourself emotionally, physically, mentally. So yeah, just keeping that negativity away as much as possible. We're talking about the episode before this one about positive vibes. You just keep positive energy, because that's how I feel you should take on the day. That's how you should take every day on, is with positive mind, have a positive mindset all the time. As much as possible, because once negativity starts to come in within you, it's contagious and it go throughout the whole body, and it's all bad. But yeah, that's my input on this. What do you guys got?
Well, I know. Go for it, Vero.
No, I was just gonna say that that's how I choose to live my life. I think I also want to recognize it's easier for some people. For me, I'm just a natural optimist. That's just how I see things. I have to really try to see things super negatively. Even if I'm having negative thoughts, like I can remedy that within myself and just try to see the good. And that's what I just want to say too, that sometimes you don't feel positive, and I feel like sometimes that's okay too. Like, let yourself feel down. It's okay, and because that's natural too, to kind of like recognize both. To feel, sometimes I feel the best and most positive on a day where I was feeling the worst. Like it took that for me at the end of the day to feel better. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes when you're down, it helps you get back up. Because I feel like it's kind of unrealistic to be positive all the time, you know? And also, for anybody who's listening and that's really difficult for you, I also recognize that positivity, or I should say, if it's really hard for you to be positive, it can be something more. I feel like we're talking very casually about being positive and happy, and I think that's because we have the right mindset, you know what I mean? Like we don't have like necessarily a mental illness that is hindering us from recognizing and trying to be happy and all that. But I feel also, if you struggle with that, that's okay too. And I encourage anyone who feels that it's difficult to stay positive to look for things that will help, like therapy. Sometimes, oh shoot, sorry, my phone. Sometimes it's more than just willpower and choice. Sometimes you need professional help, and I think that's a whole other conversation also. But I just like to say that for anybody who's listening and really struggles with finding, oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Anyone who really struggles with finding positivity, like, and within your own self, it might be more than just willpower or choice. It can be something more. It could be something that you could use professional help with.
We are balls of energy, y'all. We are balls of energy. There's chemicals in our body that let me rephrase that produce the biological response, bodily response of what energy we're gonna give off, what energy we're gonna radiate. So it's not as simple as just say, hey, choose to be positive. There's so much more complexities. There's mechanisms. When we don't produce serotonin, we don't have motivation to get out of bed. to shower. We don't have the motivation to call people, our loved ones. That's lack of serotonin, lack of dopamine, lack of oxytocin. Those are actual chemicals that are your happy chemicals. These are literally your happy chemicals. Without them, we don't feel happy, or we don't feel fulfillment. We feel out of ourselves, and sometimes that gets comfortable. We get comfortable. We find security in that lack of serotonin, the lack of when there's not adrenaline rushing through my body and cortisol, that actually feels frightful. When it's cortisol and serotonin is not, or sorry, the cortisol and adrenaline is not rushing, that feels odd. That's meet yourself where you're at. Meet yourself where you're at, and recognize that you yourself, there's actual a biological mechanism. We are complex individuals with complex experiences that genuinely affect our brain, our heart, our lungs, our whole body. And so to truly encompass that, it's not as easy as to say, I'm going to look at the fact that I'm beating a heart, and I'm going to be grateful for the fact that I'm beating my heart. Sometimes beating that heart is what's exhausting us in the first place. So again, meet yourself where you're at, and recognize that there are resources out there. There's loved ones out there. There are folks out there that have not walked in your shoes, but who will be more than empathetic to really your lived experience. And that's a level of, like you said, Vero, only when we're down can we actually experience those truly life-saving experiences that I know for me, it's why I'm grateful for my brother. It's why I'm grateful for my sister, simply because they have pulled me out of the rut. They pulled me out of moments that I knew I couldn't pull myself out of. And that's intimate, that's personal, and I'm only allowed to speak it today because of those people. So it's having to just, again, meet yourself where you're at. It's a lot easier said than done. Give yourself that credit that even by looking at it, by facing at it, you've already done enough. Now, what's the next step you're going to choose to take? And that's up to you all. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I really want to emphasize is, again, that we are energy. Diego was was here multiple times and shared that with us, that we are energy. We radiate energy. And so what we choose to radiate, we have a lot more autonomy over that than we might be aware of. And to really recognize that for those who don't have that autonomy, there's folks out there that will be the voice. And it's not enabling. It's called support.
Okay. All right, let me see. So we're down to our last one. I say our last one because there's actually two of them, but they're both the same. Similarly. So one is family and having money, because with those two things you can do anything. And then there's this one that says understanding money can't buy happiness, but it really does make life a lot easier on yourself. Always be money hungry, never settle. You can always do better. So so these are very, very good ones too. So obviously, I remember growing up, and I said it earlier too about always wanting money. I always wanted to be rich and this and that. That was my my goal in life, to be rich, and because that's what I thought was gonna make me happy. But then not too long ago, probably a couple years ago, probably like 2 or 3 years ago, someone told me that money isn't everything, and I was just like, well, I needed to pay my rent, this and this and that. So it obviously it is everything, And but then I started thinking deep inside, where I was just like, you know what, like I'm happy with what I have, like I have my family, I have you guys, friends, even my neighbors. I don't really know them too well, but they're there, they say, hey, how you doing, good morning, and just having all that around me is what makes me really really happy. Is um, having that positive energy. I feel it. You can feel that energy. Um, but yeah, and then now that to this day, I mean, so many people are some people say you must have money, or money makes me happy, but and like how whoever said, I forgot, someone said anonymously that um, different people have different forms of happiness and different things that bring happiness to their life, and I guess money, sometimes money can be it. I mean, um, Vero said it's a necessity, but and it's hard to say that I don't need it, because I do need it, but it's not what makes me happy. I would rather choose my family over that. So that's why I put these two together, because it has me bouncing from back and forth. So it's hard to decide, but in reality, for me, I like that the family, you know, family is what brings me more happiness to my life and makes my life good. So, but I don't know, how do you guys feel about this?
I think money, like that person said, it's not everything, but it makes things easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way that our society is. Like, as much as I don't really like it, money is how you play the game. You need money to be, like that's just the rules.
Yeah.
So we need money, and I think that it doesn't bring you happiness by no means, and I don't think that money on its own makes a good life at all. But it makes it easier for all the other things we've talked about. It makes it easier for peace of mind because your bills are paid.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for stability. It makes it easier for what's the other one? For power of choice, because when you have money, when there's tough decisions, it can be easier. Like, you don't like your job, quit. You have money, it's fine. You know what I mean? So I feel like money, even though it's not, to me, number one, it's never going to make me happy like that. I feel like it contributes to each individual ingredient of a good life.
Of a good life.
To
Yeah.
have money is powerful in a way, And I feel like if you can use it in a good way and not let it like get to your head and not let it be a priority, like it's really good, especially if you can help out others. And like you said earlier, Chris, like you thought that you wanted a big mansion and you wanted like all this money. I feel like if you were to get that, you wouldn't be happy, but I feel like you would be able to appreciate it so much more because you know what not to have it. And I'm grateful for the way that I grew up. I'm grateful that I was poor because it makes me appreciate things. And I've seen people and I know people who grew up with money, and I feel like they don't appreciate things as much, or they have to work a little bit harder to really recognize what they have, because it's just always been financially easy for them.
Yeah.
We live in a capitalistic society and it's ran by money. And so I hear you. It's the rules of the game. But that's why I choose to say I'm a billionaire at heart.
Yeah.
I'm a billionaire at heart. I have, it's a privilege. It's definitely a privilege, and it validates that folks with money are privileged. Again, folks with money are able to get away with things. That of stress, that of consequences, but also there's a liberation when we can recognize that when we love, that is an exchange. That is a piece of ourselves, of our labor that we are investing into something else, someone else, whatever that might be. And I think if you're using money in the form of self-care, of course, continue that, thrive with that, be a multi-billionaire at your heart, and have those numbers reflect in your bank account. But to recognize that that is not all, it's what creates an equitable experience and a balance to our lived experiences. Because anybody, mi tía Tina me dijo bien bonito un día, una persona con $1 aprende a vivir con $1. Y una persona con $100 aprende a vivir con $100. But we conform. We are conformists. To conform to the reality that we have love and that is our greatest fortune, there's years to come of more and more love. I quit my job today to be able to do that because it's and that's I think that's why I won't quit my job, because you find something you love to do and that work doesn't become so taxing. It becomes something that you want to do and it's a motivation. So it becomes, what is it that sparks your motivation? For me, it's reading books, it's learning, it's trying to navigate the world that I live in. That is a fulfillment. That is, I can't put a value on that. And that's why I say I'm a billionaire at heart. So let's go be multi-billionaires, y'all.
Heck yeah. So yeah, those were the last responses that we had for what makes a good life. I mean, I guess we can end it with our personal opinions on what makes our life's good, or what makes a good life. So anyone want to start this one?
I can go ahead and start it if that's cool with you all.
Yeah, that's cool.
So what makes a good life for me? Again, this is what makes me. For me, it's my autonomy. My autonomy allows me to continuously stay happy, to recognize that it's never something that I have to chase. My autonomy reminds me that it's my self-governed. It's how I choose to control my mind, and it's my choice. So when I say that, my feeling buddy homie, my happy homie makes me feel happy, it's not that I'm projecting my happy onto someone or something. It's that I'm making the choice that this is my happy and I'm going to fulfill that. It's my pocket of joy. And when I start seeing that, envisioning that, and embodying that, I start seeing all of the happy around me. I truly do. It's a radiated energy that only transmits more energy that is not taxing. It is not taxing to choose happy when you see it, when you're around it. It's what makes our family events so special. It's what makes the music that we listen to during those family events so special. It's the laughter. It's the hugs, the genuine things in life that sometimes we do take for granted. And it's to remember to be grateful for that, and to make that a choice. For me, that's my happy. It's my peace of mind to know that I have that choice, and that I get to embody that, and that is aligning with exactly what the woman who brought me to be the man that I am today instilled in me. All she wanted was for me to be happy, and here I am, Mom. I'm happy, I promise.
Aww.
Nice. Did you want to go, Vero, or do you want me to go?
I'll go. I think what makes a good life is a little bit of everything we talked about, but I think it really resonates with what you said, Nano, because that's kind of my answer too. Choice, the power of choice, to me, is the number one thing that makes a good life. Because, you can choose whatever makes you happy, as long as you're not hurting anybody. I think that's the beauty of life, that my happiness doesn't look like anyone else's. We all have different things we choose to make us happy. And with that, I really want to emphasize, like, choosing things that bring you joy. And I think we lose that because when we're kids, people tell you, like, oh, you have to grow up, you have to mature, and it's like, well, I'm 32 years old, and I love to play Animal Crossing on my Nintendo Switch, and I love stickers still. I I think it's a sham to tell people that you have to let go of things that made you happy as a kid.
No.
I really think that's unfortunate. You know,
Yeah.
on the contrary, I think you should hold on to all those things. You should choose to love the things that made you happy as a kid that can still make you happy now. And just to like wrap it all back to our childhoods again, I think that when we recognize our trauma as kids, when we recognize what we went through, it's like you can sit here and be like, well, now what? Well, now you choose to heal. You know, it all comes back to choice. You can sit in your trauma or you can choose to heal. And that brings me happiness that I'm choosing, and it's hard, it's not easy, but I'm choosing every day, little by little, to heal myself, to heal from any trauma that I might have experienced, just to heal, because I read something really powerful recently that said, to heal yourself is generational wealth. And I love that because you think of generational wealth as money, but it's like if I'm actively healing myself, then what kind of mom will I be one day if I'm ever so lucky to have a child? Sorry, my phone is low battery.
You're good.
So, generate that really resonated with me, that I'm choosing to heal myself, that I'm choosing to the best of my ability to be happy. All these things that I'm choosing is hopefully gonna make me a better version of myself that will get passed down to my kids, because happiness can be something you pass down, because if you show your kids how to heal by doing it for yourself, if you show your kids to choose happiness by choosing it for you, then hopefully they'll never go through any of those traumas that we had to experience, and that's wealth, and they can pass that on, and hopefully, we create a generation that is free of, anxiousness to the point of that, like, it hinders you, the way that I feel I experience. And hopefully we can give them the tools for peace of mind. And that's really what it is for me, because it's like, what are you leaving behind? Your happiness, and choosing your happiness, choosing to heal is powerful, not just for you, but for those, like you were saying, Chris, earlier. It's like, we are someone's ancestors, you know what I mean? Like, we're paving the way for them. So that's what makes a good life for me, knowing that I'm working on myself, choosing happiness, so that, the people or the kids that come after us will learn from it and see it, and, they'll have a good life.
Yeah, so what makes a good life for me is, I've always believed in this, is having compassion for everything in life, just everything that surrounds you, everything and anything. Not just because, not only that, giving compassion to it, that makes you understand what they are, but it actually gives them a value. It gives everything around you value. And every person in the world has value, and everything as well. Anything from living, all the resources on Earth, everything. So I always lived by that, like believing that, having compassion for everything and anything around you, and also knowing that the only person or the only thing that can make a good life is you. Like, you can make your life good, and they said power of choice. Power of choice. It's true. It's very, very true, because, like how we said earlier, it's up to you to decide whether what's good for you and what's gonna make your life good. Um, but yeah, having compassion for everything and anything, and just knowing that you're the person that can decide what's good for you. So that's what makes a good life. but yeah. So
there you have it, y'all. I think there's so much about life that we can absorb, we can take in, and a part of that is that of vibes. We are vibes, y'all. We're energies, and again, what we choose to radiate is sometimes a lot more out of our control than we believe it is. but there's parts of that that we can actually adapt to. There's parts of that that we can choose to say, you know what, I ain't gonna run this race here. I'm gonna save my energy for what's next to come. Again, meet yourself where you're at. Don't meet yourself where we are at. Meet yourself where you are at. You are the one that gets to dictate what your life is gonna be, and we're only trying to do that for our own selves. And so that's, if there's anything that's gonna be a takeaway, what's the good life for you? Define a good life for you, and let us know. Let us know in the comments. Let us know, and share videos. Send us messages. We really do want to know what is a good life for you, because it's gonna truly radiate energy of more good life, more prosperous life. And I love that, Vero, the way you encompass that. That's generational wealth that's gonna be passed down. That is the wealth you want to pass on. It's a good type of health that is healing, cross-generational healing, and I love that. I'm definitely gonna take that away with me tonight, because it's cross-generational wealth. Oof. Self-growth, self-healing. Be the better version of yourself, and don't try to be anybody else.
Yeah.
So there you have it. There you have it, y'all. I hope you all have a great night. I hope you all have a great enjoy. I hope you enjoyed watching this podcast. Let us know by liking, subscribing, and sharing. And if not, if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. Just put some good vibes, put some good music on, and dance it out.
Yeah.
All right. Anything you want to end up with, Chris?
Yeah, for sure. Again, I want to thank everyone who responded to the question. It really helped us grow. It helped me grow personally too. Made me realize that there's just more than what I just thought was what made a good life. And then everything connects to each other. Everything from stability to peace of mind to power of choice, from money, family, just everything. It all connects. It all connects some way or somehow. And just like this platform, what we want to do, we want to connect everyone together and have everyone's opinion, everyone's input, not just to see who's right or wrong, but to help everyone grow all together. So yeah, I feel this podcast was very, very powerful in that, because it brought not only our answers or our opinions, but it brought everyone else's, just like how we've been trying to do this for so long. So again, thank you guys, and just make sure, like Nano said, subscribe. Let people let your friends know, your family members know, that there's this podcast out here. Is not just for us, but it's for everyone. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and share. So yeah, Vero,
would you like to end it with anything?
No.
Wonderful. I respect that now.
Yeah, so
that leaves us FamCast. We hope you all have a good time. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll see you soon, all right?
We out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace and love.
Peace of mind.